Welcome to another episode of the MMA Lock-Cast. I'm your host, Manpreet, a.k.a. MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on Twitter at MMALOTN. This week, we're going to be going over UFC Rochester, which is headlined by Rafael dos Anjos and Kevin Lee. Big fight for the welterweights. Really looking forward to seeing how Kevin Lee showcases his abilities in moving up in weight class for this, and RDA, if he's going to be able to deal with another pressure wrestler, which he has been for the last several fights. But this week, we have a very honorary guest with us for this episode of, or this segment for the casuals. We got my man Big Rob.
Yeah.
And we got Robbie Wootz back in the house.
Hey, yo.
It's been several episodes without him, but I'm glad to have him back. And luckily, we had a great event this past weekend at UFC 237 in Brazil that ended with a fucking bang for the women's strawweight championship. I'm glad that you guys were here for this one because it was probably one of the highlights of the year. It's going to be on those highlight reels. You guys may have seen it.
I'm excited.
You guys may have seen it, but it's
Looks
like,
cool.
It's fucking pretty cool. Coming from girls that weigh roughly 125 pounds each.
Oh, wow.
Just saying, yeah, they're fucking small. This girl is Andrade in the yellow shorts. She's like 5'3" or some shit, but she's just a fucking tank. And you'll see what I mean in a second.
Okay.
So we're going to be kicking things off with 2 minutes and 11 seconds left in the second round.
Okay.
That's roughly when shit hits the fan. Let's fucking go. So Nami Yunus is the one that's defending this right now.
Okay.
Oh, I did see this.
Ragdoll.
Oh. So she slammed her right on her head.
Pretty
and
much. She went out. She went out pretty much.
So did she
Broke her neck.
Did she
She's
break
good.
her neck?
No, she's okay. She is okay.
Wow.
But like something so powerful, like you guys saw the velocity that she was able to pick her up in, and she was the girl that got slammed was holding on to Andrade's arm to try to like threaten with like a submission, saying I might get your arm if you fuck this up, and
Wow.
she's like, all right, cool.
But she's okay.
Hold on,
She didn't break her neck.
Nope.
Thank God.
She did an interview after, like she's good. She's sitting up.
Wow.
No injuries, nothing. She's good, but
That's vicious.
it's ridiculous how much, like, how powerful she was able to, like, powerfully she was able to slam her. They're probably going to show the photo.
Oh.
They're showing everybody crying.
Wow.
She was getting fucked up in that first round, too, though. Like, she was close to getting knocked out. She was close to getting, like, stopped. And then in the second round, she comes out and just fucking slams this girl on her fucking head.
Wow. Very emotional.
Oh, yeah.
Beastly.
Their life changes, man. They win a lot more money now that they're champ.
Yeah.
Oh. Pretty much her whole body weight landed on her head.
Jeez.
How fucking nuts
I
is that?
actually did see this, and it
Right?
was just vicious.
This angle. We'll see.
Crunch.
Face down.
Crunch.
I can't believe it didn't break anything.
Fucking
Gotta have
crazy
good,
is that.
strong neck muscles, I guess.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That was nuts.
And she's going after her, right? Even after she's not
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah,
It's
no.
just like, hey,
You
here's
gotta
some
be
extra
sure,
ones.
man. You gotta be
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
You gotta be sure.
Yeah. It's like, boom. Okay.
Oh, head first. Fucking
It's like,
insane.
wow.
1, 2. Okay,
Oh.
2.5 strikes
Yeah,
she ate after
yeah.
that. Fucking crazy.
If that angle was just any sharper, it was that would
That-
just be
That could be possible
would just
fatality,
be-
man. Like,
Yeah.
Dunzo.
for sure. There's
Has-
never been like
Okay.
There's never been anything like that. The only real way like somebody has died in MMA is from weight cutting. Like
Yeah.
they cut too much. They cut fucking 25 pounds in 20 hours or some shit
No.
to try to make weight. Like that's the only way there has ever been a death. Nothing in the UFC.
Oh, wow.
It's just been in like fucking Thailand or some shit like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's fucking nuts.
Wow.
One of the crazier finishes this week.
That was probably one of the most intense ones that you've ever showed me.
Remember when we talked about, like, I even asked him,
Yeah.
I think a couple episodes ago, I'm like, if there is one that really stuck out to you, is there one that you could say? I think he said the Ngannou over one where he like uppercut, but this one, I know it's
me.
probably taking the cake now.
I was so sure
Yeah.
she died. I mean, I really mean that.
See,
was
I
so
saw
sure.
your reaction in terms of like, is she okay? Like the
Yeah.
first thing that came to your minds was, is she okay?
Yeah, like it didn't even. Yeah,
Right?
There was no
Yeah.
way.
That was fucking crazy.
Wow, she was lucky.
Makes for a good GIF.
Yeah, GIF or GIF?
GIF. I say GIF.
Right?
I say GIF.
Yeah.
I heard somebody
Yes.
debate this on a podcast recently. I'm like, I
But
say
I
GIF.
think
I go with
actually,
GIF.
I think actually the guy who invented GIFs or
GIFs?
GIFs, I think he pronounced it GIF. So anyway,
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, well, I'm going with GIF. You're going with GIF?
GIF.
It's unanimous. It's GIF. So fuck you guys if you guys ever try to make fun of me for saying that. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys
Thank
helping
you,
me
sir.
out. I don't know if you guys are going to stick around, but that's great if you guys do, and I love your little chit-chat in the back. But that's cool. That's cool. All right. So, we had a great week. UFC 237 fucking killed it. That's 3 straight winning events. You know what that means if you guys have been with me for a while now. You guys got to pay for this shit now. Pretty plain and simple. UFC 237 started off with a bang for us with Kurt Holobaugh and Thiago Moises. Negative bang, I should say. Minus 1.1 units on the fight not going to decision. There were a lot of moments where these guys were throwing bombs. I thought that eventually either Kurt Holobaugh was going to catch Thiago Moises, drop him and finish him, or Thiago Moises was going to catch Kurt Holobaugh, get a submission. And one thing that kind of happened a little bit more than I thought it would, but still didn't end up in a finish, was Thiago Moises being able to get a lot of submission opportunities on the ground. Really worked his jiu-jitsu, and that's what he's really known for. But Kurt Holobaugh showed great submission defense and was able to fend off any type of submissions Moises was throwing at him. So minus 1.1 units there. I'll just go into my next L before we get into all the dubs that we took fucking this last weekend. But Sergio Moraes took an L to Warley Alves. That's minus 1 unit. I took the plus 120 shot on him. I thought it was great underdog value on him. You know, he has that that wild like style of throwing these hooks and strikes that are bombs, but he's not so accurate with them. I thought he would eventually have the success of landing something on Warley, hurting him enough to be able to get this fight to the ground and implement his submission game. However, that was not able to happen. Warley Alves fought a great fight right off the bat through those calf kicks, rendered Sergio Moraes pretty much defenseless and without a wheel, and it was really difficult for Sergio to generate enough power to be able to rock Warley Alves, and I think that had a pretty much of an effect on him halfway through the first round. So minus 1 unit there. But let's get on to the W's. We had my lock of the night parlay, which was Irene Aldana and Clay Guida. Starting off with Aldana, pretty much the fight that I thought she would fight. Somewhat close, but she definitely was winning those rounds. There's no way she was not winning 2-0 going into that third round. And then eventually she pulls off the armbar, so judge's decision does not fucking matter, and I'm happy about that. Clay Guida, on the other hand, this motherfucker had so many opportunities to finish BJ Penn, but could not fucking get it done. It was so frustrating. He had him on the rope so many times, yet he could not get the finish. In that third round, he just fucking, grapple fucked BJ Penn. There were still some times where BJ Penn might find some success because he was throwing with a lot of heat with his boxing. He may have been gassed. However, Clay Guida, being the constant work machine that he is, was able to muster up enough strength in these takedown attempts to keep BJ Penn on the defensive for most of that third round, and then eventually get that 30-27. So I knew it was going to be a wipeout. I thought he was going to get the finish. However, we still get the unanimous judge's decision, so I'll take the victory there. So that was lock of the night play for plus 3.43 units. Love that play right off the bat. As soon as those two fights were announced for this card, I'm like, I got to parlay that shit, and bam, it fucking hits. Moving on to our next, we'll go to the dog of the night play, which was actually Ryan Spann to win by TKO over Julio Nogueira. It was plus 180. I was very surprised that we were able to get plus 180 on this. I think Ryan Spann inside the distance was roughly minus 150, but I'm like, he's not going to submit Nogueira. There was a very close chance that he was actually going to get an arm triangle choke, which actually kind of tripped me out. However, Ryan Spann, gave up on it and then just unloaded bombs on Julio Nogueira and gets that quick and easy TKO finish to help us cash 1.35 units on that underdog play. And then just moving on to my normal plays, we had a 1 unit parlay on Hani Barcelos and Alexander Volkanovski. Both guys performed brilliantly. Hani Barcelos continues to show why he's one guy to be taken seriously in that division. Unfortunately, you're supposed to fight Said Nurmagomedov in that fight. However, Said had to pull out. I hope they book that fight next up because that's going to be a fucking banger if they actually get that to go down. And then we had Alexander Volkanovski having, the performance of a lifetime in the sense of beating the best fighter he's ever fought before, and consensus probably best featherweight of all time, and Jose Aldo. He was able to grind out that fight. Jose Aldo just kind of didn't look like himself, but you can't really blame Jose Aldo because it must have been Alexander Volkanovski's style of being grinding, quick on his blitzes to close the range. He had a bit of a reach disadvantage as well. However, he was still able to land plenty of shots on Jose Aldo and was getting off a lot of leg kicks, which is kind of fucking hilarious considering it's Jose Aldo. So that was 1.65 units cashed on that parlay. That was great. And then lastly, we finished off the night with a bang, which fight I was very, like, I was getting fucking tripped out. I was like, please don't go this way for the rest of the fight. The first round, Jessica Andrade gets completely mollywopped by Rosa Namajunas, getting her face jabbed off. Rose was doing a very good job of controlling the distance and getting out of any big shots that Jessica Andrade was able to throw. However, she could not survive that pile driver that Jessica Andrade fucking murked her with. She was trying to send her to China pretty much with that fucking slam. It was ridiculous. I showed it to the guys earlier today, and crazy. But great win for Jessica Andrade there. Minus 117 is what I got her at 1.15 units, 2 and 1.28 units. So great cash on Jessica Andrade there. In total, we went plus 5.61 units for a 54% return on investment. Great night at it. As I said, 3 straight winning events now. So we're getting into the fucking we're getting into the money. I already got a couple plays for UFC Rochester. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to share them specifically with you guys, but maybe if you guys listen closer, you might be able to pick up on which fights I'm most confident in and what I possibly would bet on. But you guys got to buy that shit to find out. Anyway, let's get right into the fucking card. So we got UFC Rochester this weekend. Big card in terms of the welterweight division, like I said right off the top. Rafael dos Anjos going up against another heavy wrestler in Kevin Lee. Does he have the same style as Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington to be able to, implement that game plan that they had on Rafael dos Anjos? I don't know. We'll have to see later in this podcast. But other big fights, Vicente Luque was actually supposed to fight Neil Magny. However, Neil Magny pulled out right after I made a play. So you guys got a free lock of the night play, which is unfortunately at minus 500. But I'll get into that later into the podcast. But that was a big fight. Vicente Luque really needs a big fucking fight. That guy's been fighting pretty much short notice guys for the last several fights. Jalen Turner was a short notice guy that he deaded within 2.5 minutes. But he needs a name to get onto his record so that he's able to move up these ranks. So I don't know who the fuck he's going to take the fight on 5 days' notice against a killer like Luque, but I hope we still get to see him on the card, and we hope to see him stay active and possibly get a performance of the night bonus. But yeah, other good fights on the card. The debut of Michel Pereira. That wacky motherfucker. I probably should have shown these guys his last fight. Crazy, unorthodox style, just throwing wild shit. He's going up against a really good technical striker in Danny Roberts, so that should be a very interesting matchup. But let's just fucking kick things off with the first fight of the night, which is going to be Julio Arce against Julian Erosa. Starting off with Julian Erosa, he's coming off a loss to Grant Dawson in his last fight, in a fight that he got pretty much grinded out in. Grant Dawson fights later in this card as well, so I'll get into him a little bit more, but that's a very difficult style for Julian Erosa to go up against. A guy that's able to pretty much initiate the clinch and get the fight to the ground as much as he wants to, or at any point that he wants to, is not going to work well for the stand-up striking ability of Julian Erosa. I think that he is just absolutely outclassed in this fight against Julio Arce. I'm huge on Julio Arce, who unfortunately is coming off a loss to Shayman Moraes in his last fight. But I think this is going to be a fight that Julio Arce gets back on the horse with. I think it's going to be an impressive fight. I was surprised to see the fight doesn't go to decision as roughly it was at plus money. I'm not sure if it's still there, but I think it's a great bet if that was to be plus money at that time. These guys are going to bang. These guys are going to stand in front of each other, not like stupidly, but like they are going to keep this fight on the feet. I don't see Julio Arce really wanting to take this fight to the ground. I think he wants to show off his striking. I think he's going to have a lot of success against Julian Erosa, and unfortunately give Julian Erosa his walking papers once again from the UFC. And we get a Julio Arce finish, I'm going to say in the third round. He has a great gas tank, and I think he's going to be able to put it on Julian Erosa late and eventually get the stoppage. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's kind of like a standing TKO of just Julio Arce going apeshit on him. Next up, we got Trevin Giles against, how can't I remember this? Zach Cummings. So Trevin Giles has not fought in the UFC since 2017. It's been a while. I believe he had a knee injury as well as something with his back as well. But he is back after a long layoff against a guy in Zach Cummings. Let's talk quickly about Trevin Giles' last fight. He fought Antonio Braga Neto, who was also coming off a very lengthy layoff before that fight. And I think the fact that Antonio did not have his cardio in check really was the downfall for him in this fight. Trevin Giles was able to rally late and get the finish in the third round. But, Antonio's cardio started to show roughly around the beginning of the second round, midway through the second round. So, props to him for still being able to go for another 5 minutes or so after visibly showing his cardio issues. But Trevin Gaz, a little bit too much for him, was able to keep this fight standing, which is where he wanted it, and was able to beat up Braga Neto and get the finish late in that third round. I think in this fight against Zach Cummins, it's going to be a little bit harder. I know that Trevin Gaz is roughly the slight favorite right now, probably around -130, -140. But against Zach Cummings, he's fighting a guy that has really good grappling, kind of like Antonio Braga Neto, though I will rate Neto's jiu-jitsu a little bit higher. I think that Zach Cummings is going to be able to close the distance, maybe get this fight to the ground, and then work his jiu-jitsu. But I have been impressed with what Trevin Gaz has been able to bring to the table. His destruction of James Bogdanovic, and especially a win over Ryan Spann, is very, credible, especially considering what Ryan Spann just did this past weekend. I kind of lean towards Trevin Gaz, but the only issue is his very lengthy layoff. His last fight that he actually fought was in December of 2017. So, anything more than a year is kind of touchy-ish for some of these guys. And, this is only going to be Trevin Gaz's third fight in the UFC, whereas Zach Cummins has been a consummate veteran of the UFC who has been around for over, I think 6 or 7 years now. So, he wanted a unanimous decision over Trevor Smith in his last fight before he had actually lost to Michel Pereira via split decision in a fight that was, pretty closely contested. But I think in this fight, he needs to be able to close the distance. I think he has the ability to, and we have to really see where Trevin Gaz's cardio is going to be after such a lengthy layoff. I think that Zach is going to push this. I think he has some value at the underdog price that he's at. And I am going to pick him to win. I believe that he will be able to put it on Trevin Gaz and get a late finish. I just love his grinding style, and I think that his ability to close the distance here and have somewhat of an iron chin will be able to help him to go on to I want to say either third round submission or a decision victory, but I am going to take Zach Cummings as the underdog. Next up, we got Pat Cummins versus Ed Herman. Yes, I said Ed Herman. This motherfucker is still around somehow. How? I don't know. Let's just look at his last, 2, 4, 6, 7 fights. He is 2-4. Why is he still in the UFC? He's coming off of 3 straight losses. Nikita Krylov, CB Dollaway, and Gian Vellante. If your last 2 losses in 2017 and 2018 are CB Dollaway and Gian Vellante, you need to get the fuck out of the UFC. I love Ed Herman. He has a great style. He's very entertaining as a fighter, but he is just not able to hang with these guys. See, Gian Vellante, fuck. Anyway, he's going up against Patrick Cummins, who's obviously not the best fighter out there either. But one advantage that he does have, a significant advantage that he does have in this fight over Ed Herman, is the ability to get this fight to the ground. He's a high-level wrestler. His issue has always been his gas tank. I think that, he starts to wear down in that third round, but I think in this fight where Ed Herman, probably has an even worse gas tank, I think he's going to be able to really put it on Ed Herman. I think he's going to be able to grind him out, and hopefully, please, fucking all the gods out there, cut Ed Herman after this fight. Done. Get rid of him. Patrick Cummins, heavy favorite, -220-ish he's sitting at right now. And I see a lot of people out there saying that, does he deserve to be -220? Yes. Maybe no, but yes, against a guy like Ed Herman. I think that, considering how bad Ed Herman is, it kind of validates why Patrick Cummins is a -220 favorite, especially with such a imposing advantage that he has in the wrestling and grappling realm here. So I think that, barring a fucking horrible, gas tank depletion in the third round by Patrick Cummins, I think he's going to be able to grind this fight out, go the full 3 rounds. I will give this to Ed Herman. He is slightly durable, so I think he's going to be able to take a beating here, but he's going to get out grappled and pretty much wrestle fuck for this whole fight, and he's going to lose. Plain and simple. I'm going to take Pat Cummins by decision. Next up, we got Mike Trizano against Grant Dawson. I don't know why the fuck my slides are all fucked up right now, but whatever. Y'all just fucking deal with it. We got Mike Trizano, 8-0, coming into this fight after a win over Luis Pena in a fight that he started off as a pretty heavy favorite in the beginning of the week, and then money slowly started to trickle in on him. I think he closed around plus 140-ish, plus 150. somebody out there knew something that we didn't, or a lot of people out there knew something that we didn't, because as Luis Pena backers, everybody was just like, oh my God, the price is getting better. Holy fuck, the price is getting better. And then I saw a lot of people, eventually shoot their shot. And eventually, they got the split decision loss here. Unfortunately, Mike Trizano, it was a very close fight. I watched it actually last night. A lot of back and forth exchanges with the grappling. I thought Luis Pena was going to have a little bit more success with being able to control Mike Trizano, but he showed, really good urgency to get the fight back up to the feet. Landed a lot of good leg kicks, landed a lot of good shots, especially considering that he had a pretty significant reach disadvantage against Luis Pena. But that Tiger Showman striking, I love that gym. I love the guys that are coming out of there with Shane Burgos and Jimmy Rivera and those guys. So Mike Trizano, very promising prospect, but he goes up against a guy in Grant Dawson. He goes up against a guy in Grant Dawson, who's 13-1, coming off a victory over Julian Erosa. Again, like I said, who fought earlier in this card. Pretty recently, he fought in March 9th, so he's getting right back into the game roughly 2 months later. Great for him. He lost a lot of time due to some USADA bullshit that he was dealing with after his Dana White Contender Series fight. But now he's rattling off 2 fights in 2 months. Good for him. Get back on the horse. Very promising prospect. His only loss has come against a guy named Hugh Pulley. The fight only lasted 35 seconds because Grant Dawson just rushed in, tried to get a takedown. It was up against the fence. He was really working deep to try to get his hands clasped behind Hugh Pulley's butt to try to secure that double leg. And then Hugh Pulley just fucking went ham. He went ham on those fucking elbows, Travis Brown style, and eventually, stopped Grant Dawson, completely put him out. But that's been his only, wrinkle in his record. He's 13-1, and I think his imposing grappling style, if he's able to shore up those issues which got him TKO'd in the Hugh Pulley fight, which I believe he has since he's been able to rattle off 4 straight victories since then. I think it's going to be a very difficult style for a lot of people to deal with. And I think that Mike Trizano, he did get taken down by Luis Pena a couple times, but it seemed a little hard for Pena. But I would kind of rate Grant Dawson's wrestling slightly better due to the fact that, he may not be as big as Luis Pena, but the fact that he's lower to the ground, he's able to get his hips under these guys and get the takedown in that fashion compared to Luis Pena having to go so much further down, be a little bit more reliant on his height. With Grant Dawson, he's a little bit more dense of a guy. He's a little bit smaller of a guy, so it's easier for him to land these takedowns. So I think that he's going to be able to land plenty of takedowns against Mike Trizano here. And he has this crazy pace, man. It's insane to see the pace that he puts on some of these guys, and I think he's going to be a little bit too much for Mike Trizano here. So I'm going to take Grant Dawson I'll take him by decision. And I think he's sitting at underdog money as well, so I would definitely keep an eye on that and see where that line goes. I see there is definitely some love for Mike Trizano, as he did open as the underdog, but quickly became a favorite. So I think there, with the line closing a little bit, people might be more tempted to put money back on Mike Trizano. So if you're thinking about Grant Dawson, I would say wait it out. Wait till maybe Friday weigh-in day or something, and you might get a better price. But I'm going with Grant Dawson by decision. Ba-bang. Next up, we got Michel Pereira. Let me fucking pull up this shit. All right, we got... Goddamn. I hate... Yeah, it's not even on here. Goddamn. Anyway, let's just fucking show Desmond Green because he's beautiful. All right, we got Michel Pereira against Danny Roberts. This is a fight I'm very intrigued by due to the strict fact that Michel Pereira brings this fucking wacky, wild style. Like, he's pretty much implementing all of capoeira into his fights and does not give a fuck. Like, he's like jumping off cages and fucking doing moonsaults and doing all this crazy shit. And he's been able to beat some guys, but against a technical striker like Danny Roberts, I think he's going to have his work cut out for him a little bit. However, I think the fact that we have seen Danny Roberts have chin issues in the past, the heat that Michel Pereira throws at, as well as sometimes the unorthodox nature of his strikes and the angles that they're coming from, I think that's going to create a little bit of a problem for Daniel Roberts at times. Roberts likes to say very technical, very good kickboxer, very good with his hands as well. But I think that weird style of Pereira might throw him off a little bit. And again, like I said, with the heat that Pereira throws with, I think that the plus 220 tag that he's currently at is a little bit of a steal, if I'm not mistaken. Like, if I'm not being completely honest here, I mean, like it's ridiculous that most people have such a high value of Danny Roberts. Like, again, very good technical striker, but he has shown many chin issues in his past. And I think with a guy that throws with as much heat as Pereira, I wouldn't be betting fucking Danny Roberts at minus 240, which is what I currently saw him at. So I would say take advantage of that Pereira money a little bit if it's still sitting above plus 200 or so. But under that, I think it should be landed a little bit closer than that. But I think there's a ton of value on Pereira there. So I'm going to take Pereira by first round KO. I think he's going to catch him with something crazy, but I could absolutely see Danny Roberts, staying as composed as possible, trying to keep out of the range as much and win a 3-round decision. But again, with the odds, I'm going to pick Pereira. I think he's going to put Danny Roberts out. And that's going to be 2 times I've bet against Danny Roberts. I don't have anything against Danny Roberts. I'm being completely honest. But I think that there are some certain situations where he is very fadeable, and this might be one of those situations. Next up, we got Desmond Green against Charles Jourdain. So the UFC does a great job of keeping their website updated because they have a great picture of Charles Jourdain in this general area here. I don't know if you guys can really see him, but yeah, he's fucking, yeah, that's him, Charles Jourdain. Desmond Green said he wanted to fight really quickly against, he wanted to fight quickly because he wanted to fight in his hometown of Rochester. So he got a quick victory over Ross Pearson March 30th, and he jumps right back into the game here. Not a lot of people were willing to take this fight because it's such a, Desmond Green presents such a difficult style to deal with, but that gives a young upstart and it's somebody who's not even signed to the UFC an opportunity to it's kind of like they're hazing, when they bring in these guys on roughly short notice. This is about a month and a half or so notice for Charles Jourdain, who just recently fought as well. But it's kind of just a way for these guys to get into the UFC. It might not be the most favorable matchup, but it's a win-win. You get the victory, you beat a top contender like Desmond Green, and you skyrocket into the rankings, or you lose, but you're still in the UFC. You're still guaranteed another fight. So not too bad on Charles Jourdain for taking this opportunity, but there is a reason Desmond Green is at minus 500. It is easily and very evident if you watch Charles Jourdain's last fight when he fought Damian Lapilus on a day's notice. He was supposed to fight Jesse Ronson that day. However, the commission would not clear him because he had some sort of skin infection. Why they waited until fight day, I have no fucking clue. I've heard wonky things about the Quebec Commission. Actually, I've seen wonky things by the Quebec Commission since I worked there a couple times too. But with Charles Jourdain, you're getting a guy who has a very flashy style, kind of like an Anthony Pettis type of guy. Likes to be flashy, but it still has the very good technical Muay Thai aspects with his leg kicks and push kicks, very good push kicks. But his issue is his wrestling, and I think that's where Desmond Green has a significant advantage in. Sometimes he doesn't lean on it that much, but I think in this fight he's definitely going to lean on it. Especially like his coaches must have watched Charles's last fight, and that is the easiest path to victory. Even though Charles Jourdain got the victory in that fight, he won in the 5th round. Damian Lapilus was only preparing for a 3-round fight that night. However, he got pushed into the main event, pushed into a 5-round fight, and Charles Jourdain, why am I so stupid with this guy's name? Charles Jourdain was able to capitalize on Damian Lapilus's lack of a gas tank and really get the finish in that 5th round due to the fact of, just having a notch more in the power and ability to keep the fight going. So, I've been a big fan of Charles. I've actually been following him since his amateur career. There's a bunch of times where I went out to Montreal to corner some guys I used to work with who were just in the amateur circuit at the time. And Charles and his brother were on that circuit, Charles and Louis. Louis still fighting for TKO. Very young kid. A lot of promising talent for him as well. With Charles Jourdain, he started on the same circuit. And, he's skyrocketed to 9-1. He only had one loss to a guy in TJ Laramie who was definitely a prospect just as much as he is. So I'm kind of surprised that he's even willing to take a fight with with Desmond Green, who presents a similar style to a TJ Laramie, but in a more aggressive and a higher weight class too, which is kind of unfortunate for Charles Jourdain. But I think that Desmond Green is either going to take this fight. I released it earlier this week when I made my lock of the night play with Desmond Green and Vicente Luque when he was supposed to fight Neil Magny. However, with Neil Magny pulling out, that parlay, which was at minus 216, now becomes minus 500 because it's just Desmond Green straight. So if you guys see that on my page or anything like that, just remember that it's just Desmond Green minus 500. I don't know if Vicente Luque is going to get booked for another fight as of today, which is Tuesday of fight week. He has not been booked for anything, but just keep your eyes on my Twitter and we'll make sure that we I can maybe advise whether you guys should still parlay Luque or not. Yeah, I still got 5 units on Desmond Green at minus 500, unfortunately, due to the parlay being busted with Neo Magny pulling out. So I'm going to take Desmond Green by, let's say, decision. Charles is still pretty tough. He has decent jiu-jitsu, at least defensive jiu-jitsu. But I could absolutely see a finish for Desmond Green here too. But I'm going to say decision officially. All right. Next up, we got Aspen Ladd versus Sijara Eubanks. This is actually a rematch. So Aspen Ladd is currently sitting roughly around minus 290. She's coming off a very dominant victory over Tanya Evinger in her last fight, which was kind of impressive. Say what you want about Tanya Evinger, but she was wrecking shop when she was in Invicta. So she is definitely a step up from most of the female talent that's out there. And very strong too. Aspen Ladd was able to kind of just ragdoll her, though. She was just going ham on the ground and pound when she was able to get that finish 3 minutes and 26 seconds into that first round. And she continues just to show improvements, man. The crazy thing is, it's only been 2 fights since she fought Sijara Eubanks last, but she's made massive amounts of improvements, and I think that's going to show out definitely in this fight. A lot of people are saying that Sijara Eubanks might have this fight in the bag if it's able to hit the ground, and she might have the advantage there. But I wouldn't be so quick to say that, man. I think Aspen Ladd could definitely hold her own a little bit on the ground, but I think she wants to keep this fight on the feet, and I think that's where she's going to do most of her damage. I think that her pace and pressure is just going to be too much for Sijara, which is unfortunate for her, especially with Sijara coming up in weight now too. It's going to be interesting to see how that could potentially affect her gas tank, maybe positively or negatively. But I'm going to take Aspen Ladd here. I think she warrants that minus 290 favorite. She's just made massive amounts of improvements. Would I bet her? I don't know. But I'm definitely going to take Aspen Ladd here. I'm going to say by decision. Next up, we got... Jeez, I am having the worst luck with my goddamn slideshow that I try to make so pretty and beautiful for you guys. I know, guys. All right. Davi Ramos against Austin Hubbard. Austin Hubbard making his UFC debut after having a quick stint in the LFA. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. This is one fighter on the card that I've yet to look into. I don't know if I'm going to look into him. I highly doubt it. I know Davi Ramos is a beast, and minus 500, I'm not interested in betting Davi Ramos. Maybe in a parlay, who knows? But, I'm so high on Davi Ramos. I did not even bother looking into Austin Hubbard. But, with Davi Ramos, we're getting a very seasoned and highly talented jiu-jitsu player who's been able to just choke out his last 3 opponents in the UFC. He had that unfortunate decision, unanimous decision loss to Sergio Moraes in his UFC debut. But I think that after him to have a rematch, we might be able to see a better Davi Ramos. However, Ramos is coming off of 3 wins over Chris Gruchmacher, Nick Hein, and John Gunther. He was supposed to, actually, I don't know, nope, he was not supposed to fight somebody else before. So I have no idea why the fuck he's fighting Austin Hubbard. However, he should begin to, step up in competition. He's a very talented guy. I think that he could definitely make it far in this division, in the middleweight division, welterweight division. But I have no interest in this fight with Austin Hubbard, and I don't want to break it down too much, so I'm just going to tell you guys to go look at another capper if you're interested in betting this fight. I just don't give a fuck, to be honest. Next up, we got Charles Oliveira versus Nick motherfucking Lentz. For the 3rd time, we get him again. So when initially this fight was announced, I was like, why the fuck are they making this fight again? Charles Oliveira, current 4-fight winning streak, choked everybody out. Clay Guida, Christos Giagos, Jim Miller, David Tamor. That David Tamor fight, man, he really showed improvements in his striking. A lot of people thought that David Tamor was gonna be a complete wash on the feet for Tamor. However, Charles Oliveira was doing the damn thing. He really put it on David Tamor, really pushed him, and then eventually got the Anaconda choke finish in the 2nd round. Forever tired, y'all. But yeah, very. I think that Charles Oliveira warrants being a heavy dog. Over minus 300, I don't know. But one thing that is always consistent in Charles Oliveira fights, and I think that if you guys look back at my past several bets in his last fights, is that he does not like seeing the judges, does not like going to the judges, and I think that's going to be once again, very true. In a fight with Nick Lentz, I think he's going to be able to easily choke him out. Last time, I believe he choked him out via guillotine choke. The fight before that was actually a no contest due to an illegal knee. That was way back in 2011. Then they fought in 2015. And then 4 years later again, they fight in 2019. But, the vast amounts of improvements we've seen from Charles Oliveira, I think that he's just on another level right now. Nick Lentz is coming off a relatively impressive victory over Scott Holtzman. I bet Scott Holtzman in that fight. Very discouraged when he lost that fight. But Nick Lentz, showing that he's still around, 41 fights deep into his UFC or into his MMA career. He's still doing the damn thing, beating up and coming upstarts like fucking Scott Holtzman. But I think he has his work cut out from here in Charles Oliveira. I think we see another first round victory for Charles Oliveira via submission, and he's going to continue to push that fucking UFC record up. And I don't think anybody's going to catch him because this guy is just nuts, especially with how often he fights too. I think that's very beneficial for him. But I want to see him get a step up in competition after this. He definitely needs to fight guys who are, higher ranked. David Tamer was a fun fight. It was a great fight because Tamer was on a great fucking run of his own too. The Jim Miller fight, I don't know why they did that one again. But now here he fights. Oh, sorry. I get why they did the Jim Miller one again, just so he could get that fight back. So I'm very happy for him in that aspect. But this Nick Lentz fight makes zero fucking sense. I have no idea why. But regardless, we're going to get a first round submission for Charles Dobronx Oliveira. Next up, we got the return of, for some reason, everybody's favorite, Megan motherfucking Anderson. She goes up against a newcomer in the UFC, Felicia Spencer, who was the champion over in Invicta before coming to the UFC. I got another yawn coming. And it's only fitting that's before this fight because I think it's my, don't give a fuck's fight. All right. Ooh, it's coming. I need to be sponsored by Tim Hortons. Next time, if I don't show up with a Tim Hortons cup right here, slap me. Somebody virtually slap me. All right? Anyway. Megan Anderson coming against Felicia Spencer off for victory against Kat Zingano. Unfortunate victory. An eye injury for Kat Zingano. It was one of the weirdest things you'll ever see. Megan Anderson's toenail clips Kat Zingano's pupil or some shit and gets her eyeball. And that fight is a TKO via eye injury. And Megan Anderson gets her first ever UFC victory. Unfortunately. That's the only way. However, in this fight against Felicia Spencer, Felicia presents a style that could potentially beat Megan Anderson, but I think the fact that she's giving up so much size and I think strength, because Megan Anderson's a relatively strong fighter, I'll give her that. And Felicia being so, she's going to be giving up height for sure. I think Megan Anderson's sitting at 6 foot, and Felicia Spencer's at 5'6". She's going to give up. She's going to give up plenty of size there. I think Anderson's going to be strong too, so I think it's going to be a little bit harder for Felicia to get this fight to the ground. And one thing, was very evident in most of Felicia's fights is when, she isn't able to get the secure the takedown, she's, she pretty much just pulls guard and just starts fishing for a submission. So, it has worked for her now. She's up to 6-0, so that's very impressive on her part. However, I don't know if it's going to work against stronger fighters like Megan Anderson. Megan Anderson still has some flaws when it comes to her takedown defense. She was pretty much getting handled by Holly Holm on the ground, and Holly Holm is not really known for her ground work. But Felicia Spencer has choked out 3 of her last 4 opponents, finished 4 out of 6 of her opponents, and she goes up against Megan Anderson here again with the style to kind of beat her. But I don't really trust the size discrepancy here. I pondered the Felicia Spencer underdog bet. If that line gets to something ridiculous, then maybe I'd revisit it. But I really like Felicia's. I think that Megan Anderson is going to get her next victory here. I think she's just going to bust up Felicia Spencer on the feet. Her striking is, significantly better than Felicia Spencer's, I must say. And again, with the size disadvantage, it's going to be tough for Felicia Spencer to close the distance. Implement a heavy enough and strong enough takedown game plan, especially with the range that she has to cover, to be able to beat Megan Anderson. So I'm going to take Megan Anderson by decision. I'm not really, Felicia Spencer is pretty tough, but, You know what? Actually, I'm going to take Megan Anderson by second round. Knee KO. I'm going to take her by like a clinchish KO. She's going to get the Muay Thai plum somehow and just knee the fuck out of Felicia Spencer and get the finish. So I think she, you know, with knees and elbows, I think Megan Anderson's going to get this fight done in the clinch after, you know, shucking off of some of Felicia Spencer's soft takedowns and then get the finish via TKO. So yeah, I can't believe I'm saying it, but I am picking Megan Anderson to win this fight. Next up, another fight that I don't seem to have a slide available for. I still don't fucking understand how I skipped all of this shit. Oh, nope. There we have it. And for some reason, they don't have Antonio Carlos Jr.'s fucking picture. They have had Antonio Carlos Jr. on their fucking Tough Brazil. Yet they can't even put him on fucking... You gotta be kidding me, man. He has been fighting in the UFC since 2014. How do you not have a picture of him? Ugh. I wish I have... I'm going to get my man to put fucking a Crystalia soundboard in here because that motherfucker has the greatest soundboard. And I will fucking do it. But that deserves... Fuck. Hope some of you are Crystalia fans so you guys understand what the fuck I'm talking about. Regardless, we got Antonio Carlos Jr. against Ian Heinisch. Carlos Jr. coming off a victory over Tim Boetsch back in April of 2018, so it's a bit of a layoff. Like I said, anything about a year, it gets a little sketchy. He comes in against a tough guy in Ian Heinisch, who is 12-1. You know, Ian Heinisch's only loss has come to Marcus Perez via submission, and it was kind of anticlimactic as to how that submission happened too. I was kind of unimpressed in how Ian was able to get caught in that. However, you know, he rattles off 2 wins in the LFA, gets a win in Dana White's Contender Series, and then finds himself in the UFC against Cesar Ferreira, winning the biggest fight of his career. He was supposed to fight Tom Breeze back in March of 2019. However, Tom Breeze pulled out due to health concerns, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't want to get into that. That's a whole another podcast on its own. But here he finds himself fighting Antonio Carlos Jr., who brings a dangerous jiu-jitsu game. You know, Carlos Jr. is a massive motherfucker. You know, he won Ultimate Fighter Brazil in the heavyweight division, and now he fights at middleweight. I think he's going to have a size advantage over Ian Heinisch here, and it's going to be interesting to see how Ian Heinisch implements his grapple heavy-ish game, pressure heavy game against a guy who wants to close the distance, wants to get this fight to the ground, and his kind of looking slightly better with his striking. You know, he looks decent with his striking, but obviously his strength is his ground game. I think that this fight is somehow, some way going to find its way to the ground. And I think that Carlos Jr. is going to be able to take over there. I see a lot of money coming in on Ian Heinisch. I know a lot of people love betting him roughly around plus 200, plus 180. I can see why. I get it. But as long as the price keeps getting better on Carlos Jr., there's a certain point where you got to be like, wait a second. All right, we got to go with Carlos Jr. here. Maybe minus 160. Maybe that's roughly around the price. But Carlos Jr., I think, should win this fight. I think that he will catch Ian Heinisch in a submission. I think, let's say, second roundish. We're going to get a second round submission for Antonio Carlos Jr. And I can't wait to continue to see his ascent. You know, the Daniel Kelly loss was very unfortunate, especially a Patrick Cummins loss too. But yeah, I think this is going to be a big win for him, especially against a guy who has such heat behind him, especially after a Ian Heinisch win. So I'm going to take Carlos Jr. by second round submission. That moves us on to our fucking main event. We got Rafael dos Anjos against Kevin Lee. Let's round of applause. Where's my round of applause button? Nope. We need a round of applause, seriously. Nope. There we go. A round of applause for Rafael dos Anjos for taking stylistically the most... How long is this fucking applause track for? All right, there we go. Thank you. Thank you, people. Thank you. Hats off to Rafael dos Anjos for taking such a compromising stylistic matchup for him in his last 2 fights, for sure. Colby Covington Kamaru Usman, relentless wrestling pressure, able to get the fight down whenever they need to, and just absolutely control Rafael dos Anjos, who was kind of dwarfed, especially by Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman is one of the thicker, bigger 170ers out there, especially being the champion now. There's good reason as to why his style is so successful. Kevin Lee, another guy who's, relatively big into that 155 division. Let's not forget Rafael dos Anjos made most of his best work at 155. So he is also a former lightweight. So I believe Kevin Lee will still have the size advantage here. However, I do not think that Kevin Lee has the same style that Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington were able to implement against Rafael dos Anjos. He might be able to do that for about 2 rounds, but I think that dos Anjos, his leg kicks are going to add up. He is definitely the better striker, and we have seen in the past Kevin Lee's kind of his confidence leave him throughout fights, and I think that Rafael dos Anjos is a good 5-round fighter and able to get these victories. I think that he will outstrike Kevin Lee. I think he will give up takedowns in the first 2 rounds or so, maybe the first round and a half. But then I think in the later rounds he's going to kind of put it on Kevin Lee, and I think he's going to be able to win at least 3 rounds to get the victory. So mid last week, the odds were roughly around plus 140-ish, plus 150-ish for Dos Anjos, and now the line has flipped. Rafael dos Anjos is a slight favorite. I'm hoping that we can eventually get him back down to plus money. I think there might be some late love coming in on Kevin Lee, and a lot of people being kind of sleazed by the wrestling style that Kevin Lee has, but a lot of people are forgetting who the fuck Rafael dos Anjos is. So you can't just... I love my man, I think it's MMA Bets and Knockouts, whatever. I think that's his name. MMA Knockout Bets, I think. I feel bad for not remembering exactly what it is, but he kind of introduced the term wiki capping to me. And if you were to wiki cap this fight, knowing, the general amount about these guys, you would think that Kevin Lee has the definite advantage here. But you really got to look into this fight. I think Dos Anjos has the ability to keep this fight on the feet after the second round, or midway through the second round, and then do his work on the feet and really hurt Kevin Lee and really put it on him. And we see a similar kind of, maybe a later finish, maybe a 4th round finish or a 5th round finish for Dos Anjos. But I'm definitely strong on Dos Anjos here. I like him. I think he definitely has the tools to win this fight, and should not have been the underdog. So if he gets back to plus money, there's definitely something wrong with that. And I think that this is definitely Dos Anjos' fight to win. And just as a stupid little tidbit, last time he lost 2 fights, he went on to win 3 fights after that. So maybe we got the start of a 3-fight winning streak coming up. But I think we got a Rafael dos Anjos victory here. And yeah, he moves on and tries to reclaim his spot in the welterweight title run. But eventually I think that hopefully we see him back at 155, because I think he could still definitely put some work in there and have, if he can cut down comfortably and healthily, properly, he should be okay, and he should have, again, plenty of success at 155. But I think this is a fight that he's going to win at 170. And unfortunate for Kevin Lee, like, he went from being a very top prospect. A lot of people were high on him, but he has some mental lapses, and I think that continues to catch up with him. And you cannot have mental lapses when you're fighting a guy like Rafael dos Anjos, who's such a veteran of the game and has seen a similar style, a much stronger style. But I think he'll be able to prevail this time and get the 5th round finish. Let's say 5th round finish. So yeah, that's UFC Rochester, man. We're off for a week after this, since we've had, I think, 6, 7, or 8 straight UFC events. I think we're right back into it with another 5 or 6 straight UFC events after, we got UFC Rochester, then we got a free weekend, and then after that we're back at it for UFC Sweden, I think it is, which is headlined by Alexander Gustafsson and Anthony Smith. Very fucking out for that card. There's a couple of interesting fights on there, especially Alexander Rakic against Jimmy Manuwa. Y'all know how big I am on Rakic, so really excited for that fight. But like I said, I already have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, roughly 4 bets already posted on my website, MMALOTN.ca. Make sure you guys go to picks, and very reasonable price range for a guy that puts in as much work as I do. Maybe I should charge it a little bit more, but I haven't had the best run of late, or at least in in 2019, but I've been really putting it together, which is why my paid versus pre policy is coming into effect here. 3 straight winning events, and we move on to paid picks. I got the hot hand, and I'm hoping to keep it. I got a lot of fights that I'm really confident in, and I think I'm gonna have up to 6 bets for this card. Just waiting on a couple lines to shake out. But again, four bets posted. One of them is kind of free now. Again, like I said, it was supposed to be Desmond Green and Vicente Luque. It was 5 units at minus 216. However, with Neo Magny pulling out, we have a straight bet, unfortunately, on Desmond Green at minus 500. So I wouldn't recommend playing that straight. I would recommend parlaying him with somebody. Who that should be is up to you. It's my official play is unfortunately going to be minus 500 straight on Desmond Green. And then I have 3 other bets posted right now with 2 more to come. So again, support your boy. Let me support your boy. Plain and simple. All right. Everything you need, MMALOTN.ca. I'm always active on Twitter at MMALOTN. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, rate the shit. I love to talk some shit in the comments. There's one motherfucker, I'm not going to name him, but he's really hating on me for my BJ Penn bet. It fucking came through. I'm not going to, the Clay Guida bet. He came through. I'm not going to rub it in too much, but this is my moment to rub it in, so fuck you. But it's all good. It's all good. It's usually love in the comments. I love discussing with you guys. So hit me up. Let's talk. And we're going to probably give away a mug on the next episode, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Pretty easy way to enter, but it should be fun. And if you guys haven't seen the mugs, we made a ton of fucking mugs with a bunch of funny MMA quotes on them. Make sure you check out the MMA Twitter. I've definitely put them on there and posted them on there. But I got some fun shit, and it was all thanks to you guys. I asked for suggestions, and you guys killed it. So again, that's it. www.mmalotn.ca, at MMALOTN on Twitter. Like, subscribe, rate, all that shit. See you guys next week when we record Combative Stories, hopefully. Got to confirm with my man, Big Rob. And then after that, we're going to be breaking down UFC Sweden. And I'll be back for episode 40. Can't believe it's going to be fucking 40. And the heart, BT dubs, is for Robbie Wootz. We're going to make sure that we always got the heart there just to signify the special guest of Robbie Wootz. But that's it for me. I'm done. I'll see you guys on Twitter at MMALOTN. Until next time.